In both Daniel and Revelation, we learn the beast empire has 10 horns. Who are they? What are they? And more importantly, where are they located today? Can we know? Maybe we can know a lot more than we think we can. That's what we're talking about today, and we're starting right now. Every time we see a vision of these horns, they are on the beast. They are part of the beast. So understanding who the beast is and who its 7 heads are helps us explain these horns. So expect that in this video as well. Now, the first question you probably have is, what are these horns? I mean, they're obviously symbolic of something. They're not just regular horns. And in Revelation 17, we are told exactly what they are symbolic of. The 10 horns, which you saw, are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but they receive authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour. These have one purpose, and they give their power and authority to the beast. From this we see that the 10 horns are kings or rulers of nations. We also see that all 10 of them receive their authority at one time. This eliminates the possibility that they were 10 Roman emperors, or 10 Muslim caliphs, or any series of 10 consecutive kings. They all reign at the same time. They are not a series of consecutive rulers. And because no set of 10 kings reigning all at the same time has happened in history in this way, we know that they are future. We also see that they have one purpose. In the Greek, this word means mind. They have one mind or one resolve, and that is to give their authority and power to the beast. They want to give their power away. They want to give it to the beast. So from just this one verse, we learn that there are 10 future rulers coming that rule the beast empire with the beast. But when do they arise in relation to the beast itself? In Revelation, we see the beast arises out of the sea with the 10 horns in place. Then I saw a beast coming up out of the sea, having 10 horns and 7 heads. This is one way we can know the beast hasn't arisen yet also, that the 10 horns aren't here yet, and if the horns aren't here, well, neither is the beast. Let's say that again because it's very important. In Daniel 7 as well, when the beast comes up out of the sea, its 10 horns are in place. A 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and extremely strong, and it had large iron teeth that devoured and crushed and trampled down the remainder with its feet, and it was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. And as we said before, this is how we know the beast has not formed yet, because these 10 kings haven't been revealed yet. Some say Islam is the beast, but no, it isn't. The 10 horns haven't arisen yet. Some say the papacy is the beast. No, it isn't, for this same reason. The 10 horns haven't given their power to the beast all at one time. This brings up a very interesting point. In Daniel 7, 7 through 8, we read that the little horn, or Antichrist, uproots 3 of these horns. Yet, in Revelation, we read that all 10 horns give their authority to the beast at one time. Now, how can this be? How can both of these things be true at the same time? How can he both uproot 3 and yet 10 still be left to give him power? The answer may be that there are 10 horns to begin with, and that 7 support the little horn or Antichrist, but 3 really don't. The Antichrist then uproots the 3 that don't, replaces them with new kings that do. Then, when the time is right, all 10 remaining kings, the 7 original, 3 new, all give power to the beast. Now we know what they are, kings. The next obvious question you probably have is, where are these kings located on earth? Europe, Middle East, or maybe all 7 continents? The beast itself is the clue. Not only are the 10 horns in place before the beast arises, but the 10 horns are on the beast. Whatever landmass the beast compromises and makes up is where these 10 kings come from. This is a key understanding as we study where the 10 horns are from. In order to do that, we have to examine all the references to the beast and its heads and horns to figure this out. And that's what we do on this channel. We use Scripture to interpret Scripture. If that's important to you, consider joining us by subscribing. In Revelation, we learned the beast is made up of 3 constituent parts. And the beast that I saw was like a leopard, there's part 1, and his feet were like those of a bear, part 2, and his mouth was the mouth of a lion, part 3. And the dragon gave him his power and his throne and great authority. So the beast is made up of a leopard, lion, and bear. And it's based wherever Satan's throne is. When speaking of the leopard, lion, and bear, John is obviously referring back to Daniel 7, because these 4 creatures or beasts, the lion, bear, and leopard, are found there. And the consensus opinion of scholars is that these 3 other creatures or beasts are also kingdoms. But here in Revelation, we get extra information. The beast is made up out of the first 3 creatures. We're not told that in Daniel. In Revelation, we're told the beast is a leopard. So the coming beast kingdom is essentially the same as the historical leopard kingdom. And it is the consensus opinion that this is Alexander's empire, Alexander the Great's empire. So what you are looking at on the screen is a rough approximation of what the extent of the beast empire will be. I would also like to show you this very interesting map of the leopard kingdom done by one of our readers. Look at how the leopard kingdom even kind of looks like a leopard. I find this highly interesting and wanted to share it with you. We are also told that the beast has the feet of a bear. The consensus among scholars is that the bear was ancient Persia, which was conquered by Alexander the Great and fully contained within the landmass we are considering. The beast had the mouth of a lion, and the consensus opinion is that the lion was ancient Babylon. Babylon was conquered by Persia, so again it is fully contained within the landmass of Alexander's empire. And again, this leopard-looking map is a good approximation of the coming beast empire, but I want you to notice something. The beast isn't a European beast. It isn't a worldwide beast. It isn't an American beast. It's Middle Eastern, according to Revelation. This is consistent with Daniel 8:8-9, that tells us the Antichrist comes out of Alexander's empire, and Micah 5:5-6, that tells us the Antichrist is an Assyrian. All the biblical pieces fit together. Also, we notice that Satan gives the beast his throne and great authority. Where is that throne? We're told in the letter to Pergamum that Satan's throne is in Pergamum, which is Turkey. Again, Middle East. If you have been taught that the beast is European or even the Pope, these ideas are not consistent with Scripture, as we have just seen, but rather are kind of like a fable that was started by the reformers in the 15 and 1600s. As great as some of those men were, they were flawed just like all of us and make mistakes too. But this channel realizes you may need more evidence. So let's confirm this idea that the beast is Middle Eastern for you with another scriptural reference. Later in Revelation, John explains the heads of the beast for us as well. And the heads are obviously on the beast, just like the horns. So if the heads are all Middle Eastern, then so is the beast. Here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains upon which the woman sits, and they are 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, the other is not yet come, and when he comes, he must remain a little while. The beast which was and is not is himself also an 8th, and is of the 7, and he goes to destruction. So from this we learn that the 7 heads are 7 mountains and 7 kings. First of all, what's a mountain in the Bible? It's a symbol of a kingdom. In Daniel 2, we learn that the stone that destroys Nebuchadnezzar's statue grows to become a mountain, or a kingdom that fills the whole earth. So the 7 heads are 7 kingdoms and 7 kings. You are probably asking, what kind of kings are these? And what are these 7 kingdoms? Can we know? Well, first, unlike the 10 horns that all reign at the same time, we see these kingdoms reigned one after another. A second thing we can learn is that 5 of the 7 heads had come and gone as of John's day, as of the 1st century. We are also told that the 6th head or empire existed in the 1st century. So all these were historic empires. A 7th empire was going to be in the future to John's day, and then even an 8th empire and king would arise in the end time as the beast. We know the 6th empire existed in John's day, so we could start there. That empire is Rome, and because Greece, Persia, and Babylon were the 3 main empires that preceded Rome, we can assume they are heads 3, 4, and 5. We also need to consider the 2 heads prior then to Babylon and 1 head after Rome. Once we do that, we might be able to figure out the region of the world where the heads of the beast come from. Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome have one thing in common. They were all large empires that persecuted the Hebrew people. So if that is the basis for being a head, what 2 empires preceded Babylon and matched these criteria? Egypt was the first great world empire to persecute the Hebrew people, and Assyria was second. It even took the 10 northern tribes into captivity. So we can fill in these 2 additional heads. And that only leaves us the 7th head, the one that followed Rome. What major world empire conquered Rome and persecuted the Hebrew people? Both, not just one, both. Conquered Rome and persecuted the Hebrew people. See, when we hear Rome, we usually only think of the Western Roman Empire, and that was based in Rome itself. That part of the empire fell to the Germanic tribes in AD 476, but that wasn't the entire empire, and it wasn't the final aspect of the Roman Empire at all. There was also an eastern portion of the empire based in Turkey and Constantinople, the Byzantine Roman Empire, which continued on long after the western portion of the empire, and it fell to the Muslim Caliphate in AD 1453. Almost 1,000 years later, it was a long-standing empire. The Muslims then made Constantinople their capital, and it became the Islamic Ottoman Empire that ruled until 1923, nearly 500 years later. So we propose the Ottoman Caliphate as the 7th empire or 7th head of the beast that followed Rome. It was the empire that conquered Rome, and it certainly has persecuted the Hebrew and even the Christian people from the day they were founded. Let's see what the passage in Revelation 17 says about this 7th head. The other has not yet come, and when he comes, he must remain a little while. Must remain a little while. This is the verse that throws everyone off, even translators. The verse can be taken 2 ways. The words must remain imply a relatively long time. Little while implies a short time. Based on their bias, translators might even add a word, like the ESV does. The other has not yet come, and when he does come, he must remain only a little while. Although I like the ESV generally, this is a bad translation of the verse. The word only isn't found in the Greek. They added it to the Greek. The bias of the translator added that word to make it say what they thought it should say. Now this channel's opinion is that the word must, which is in the Greek, is the key. No one must remain a short time. Must is a word that implies a much longer time. It implies something that must be endured. If it was a short time, the word only would be included, just like the ESV tried to do. So this longer time fits with the Ottoman Empire. But why would the term little while be used for something that isn't a little while? Believe it or not, this term is used throughout Scripture. for a time of persecution, both short and long, and we're going to show that to you. Job 24:24, Psalm 37:10, Isaiah 10:25, Isaiah 26:20, Jeremiah 51:33, Ezekiel 11:16, Haggai 2:6, and there are even more. But in fact, this last verse in Haggai points out that a little while to God might be thousands of years. For this is what the Lord of armies says: once more in a little while I am going to shake the heavens and the earth and the sea also and the dry land. God hasn't done that yet, but he spoke it to Haggai a couple thousand years ago. So a little while in Scripture can definitely be 500 years or more. In the case of Haggai, it was thousands of years, as we said. So now we have the 7 empires. They are all Middle Eastern. You might say, well, wait a minute, Nelson, Rome was there. Yes, but remember, the remaining portion of the Roman Empire was the part that was based in Turkey or Constantinople. So they're all Middle Eastern. And if we assemble them together, they very much resemble the leopard-shaped empire we looked at before. This is the region where the beast will arise. It comes out of the Middle East. And because we're told the beast is an 8th kingdom and is of the 7, the beast is Middle Eastern. The beast which was and is not is himself also an 8th and is of the 7, and he goes to destruction. This is a mistranslated verse as well in many Bibles, and a very difficult verse, so I'm not being overly critical. The proper translation is that the beast is of the 7. Many Bibles add the word one to this verse, that it is one of the 7. But that is not what the passage says. The verse does not say the 8th beast is one of the first 7. It says it is of the 7, or comprised of the previous 7 empires. If this completely confounds you, pick up a Greek English interlinear Bible and see for yourself, because this is a very important understanding. The King James happens to translate this very well. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. The Greek word translated of is actually ek, and is better translated out of. So the coming beast comes out of the previous 7 empires. In other words, it arises in the territory of the previous 7. It is Middle Eastern, like all the others. Thinking that the beast empire is worldwide or European or Asian or North American is simply mistaken. According to the Bible, the beast is Middle Eastern. This really shouldn't be a debatable point. But the beast empire is a revived empire also. It is one of the former 7 come back to life. Let's look at that passage from Revelation 13. I saw one of the heads. And this head is one of the kingdoms we were just describing, as if it had been fatally wounded, and his fatal wound was healed. And the whole earth was amazed and followed after the beast. So one of these heads, these empires, appears to be fatally wounded, but it's revived. That means one of these heads is destined to be reformed. The most likely is the Ottoman Caliphate, which Turkey is attempting to revive right now. You can click on the uppermost right corner of the screen to watch a video on that subject. Now it's time to consider the horns. We can know that the 10 kings will form a confederacy in this region, the Middle East, but can we know that with even more precision? Let's see. I saw a beast coming out of the sea having 10 horns and 7 heads, and on his horns were 10 crowns, and on his heads were blasphemous names. Now this might seem like a crazy question to ask, but are the horns on the heads? Well, the crowns are on the horns, and crowns belong on heads, so it is very, very likely that the 10 horns are on the heads. Likely one on each head, with some heads having even more than one. You're probably seeing what we're seeing right now. If the horns are on the heads, we automatically should know 7 of the 10 horns, since we know the 7 heads. And believe it or not, One of these heads, the leopard, has 4 heads all by itself. We know that from Daniel 7:5. Maybe that is how we get to the number 10. 1 horn on each of the heads, but 4 horns on the leopard. In Daniel 8:8, the future kingdom known as the goat is divided into 4, and these 4 divisions are specifically called horns. So there you go. We can be pretty sure of that. So let's map out where these horns might go. Let's start with the leopard's 4 horns. Now there is some guesswork in this, but let's start with 4 of the main divisions of Alexander's empire: Ptolemy, Egypt; Seleucid, Syria; Lycomachus, Western Turkey; and Cassander, Greece. Then we can add the other 6 heads: Egypt, Assyria, which is likely northern Iraq today; Babylon, which is likely southern Iraq today; Persia, which is Iran today; Rome, which could be the Eastern Roman Empire; and the Ottoman Empire, both based in Turkey. That's one take on the 10 horns. If you have other thoughts, hey, leave us a comment. But maybe you'd like to understand these beasts, the lion, bear, and leopard, in more detail. If so, click right here to see how these beasts are both ancient kingdoms and modern kingdoms, and are 3 of the horns of the beast. Till then, this is Nelson, and I'll see you there.